The task is still open in a tab. It's been open for 4 days. You've seen it every time you opened your browser. You've thought about it in the shower, on the train, right before sleep. You know exactly what needs to be done. The steps aren't even that complicated. And yet, you open your phone instead. You reorganize something that didn't need reorganizing. You make coffee you don't actually want. You tell yourself you'll start when you feel more ready, more focused, more like the kind of person who just does things. That feeling of readiness never quite arrives. Here's what most people get wrong about this. They think procrastination is about the task. That if the task were easier, or more interesting, or less boring, they'd just do it. But the task is almost never the problem. Watch what actually happens the moment you sit down to start something. There's a flicker. It's fast, barely a second. It's not dread exactly. It's more like exposure, like the moment before you send something you're not sure about. The work, before it exists, can't be judged. The email unsent can't be ignored. The project unstarted can't disappoint anyone. For a lot of people, procrastination isn't avoiding the work. It's avoiding that flicker, that tiny moment where the distance between what you imagine and what you actually produce becomes real. Psychologists call this self-worth protection. The idea is that for some people, their sense of being capable, intelligent, or competent is directly tied to their output. When you don't try, you can't actually fail. You can tell yourself, and mean it at some level, that you would have done well if you'd really tried. Procrastination in this framing isn't weakness, it's insurance. It's a story you keep available, just in case. The problem is that the insurance gets expensive over time. The story starts to require more and more maintenance. You have to keep not starting, keep staying just close enough to the task that it doesn't disappear, but never close enough to actually test what you're capable of. A kind of permanent almost. There's another version of this that looks completely different from the outside. Some people don't feel anxious about their work. They feel nothing. The task is there, they know it matters, and they just feel flat when they approach it. Blank, like reaching for something that isn't generating any signal. This one often gets called depression or burnout, or sometimes I'm just lazy. But one thing it can actually be is what researchers call task aversion, a learned association between the activity and something unpleasant, not fear of failure. More like the accumulated memory of how that kind of work has felt before. Heavy, boring, never quite good enough. Your nervous system learned to route around it. The interesting thing is, when you avoid something because it feels aversive, the avoidance feels like relief. Brief, but real, and relief is reinforcing. So the loop tightens, not because you're weak, because you're human. Here's the part most productivity advice completely misses. People think the solution to procrastination is motivation. That if you could just feel like doing it, you'd do it. So they build elaborate systems, set dramatic deadlines, wait for the right mood, make vision boards. And when none of it works, they blame their character. But motivation doesn't reliably come before action. For most people, on most tasks, motivation comes during. The small lift you get from 2 minutes of actually working is more reliable than any amount of pre-work inspiration. The waiting is the trap, not the task. There's something else worth naming, and this one's a little uncomfortable. Some procrastination is actually about control. When everything around you feels uncertain, a job you're not sure about, a relationship that's complicated, a future you can't predict. The ability to delay is one of the few things that's genuinely yours. Not starting is a decision you make. It's proof that you have some say over your time, even if the procrastination costs you more than it gives. It doesn't make logical sense, but it makes psychological sense. If you want to understand your own version of this, one thing that can help isn't a timer or a reward system. It's a simple, honest question asked right at the moment you feel the pull to avoid. What am I protecting myself from right now? Not in a therapy way, just factually. Are you protecting yourself from finding out your work isn't as good as you need it to be? From the discomfort of sustained effort? From feeling like you have no say over how your time goes? The answer isn't always what you'd expect, but naming it honestly takes some of the power away from it. This isn't a sign that something is broken in you. Avoidance is something human brains do when they're managing more than they want to admit. If what you're experiencing is feeling much larger than procrastination, persistent low mood, inability to function day to day, talking to someone trained to help is worth it. This video isn't that. It's just a clearer way to look at a pattern most of us are living inside without quite seeing it. The tab is still open. You don't need to feel ready. You probably just need to type one sentence, the worst one, the most imperfect one, and let the next one follow. Not because that solves everything, but because the waiting was never really about time.